an anticipatory question here today. What aspects, characteristics, roles, beliefs define you? So just be thinking about that as we go through these first few slides together. I believe there's a total of 12 slides today, so not really long. All right, so what do I want you to be able to do when we're finished is be able to define intersectionality. I want you to be able to discuss the impact of aspects of a student's life that need to be taken into consideration when creating task analyses. And then I want you to be able to discuss the implications of intersectionality of disability and the impact on practice. Finally, you're going to create a task analysis to address skills of adaptive behavior. So let's begin kind of going back and revisiting that anticipatory question on what makes you you. Okay, so same question there. All right, and so I want you to just, and you can jot this down now, later, but just start thinking about how you would list different things about yourself that define you as a person. So I've got an example here of some things that I think define me as a person. And so I have cisgender, female, white, I'm a teacher, I'm spiritual, I'm an older American, and I'm an only child. So those are things that I think really define who I am as a person. And if any of those were different, how it would impact how people perceive me, how it may impact all different kind of things about my life. So as a cisgender, white, older American, I have a lot of privilege when I walk into a doctor's office. I advocate for myself. I make sure that I'm getting the care that I need, and if I don't, I go somewhere else. I have that privilege to be able to do that. I don't know if a person who was a transgender female would have that same luxury of privilege of getting just to change doctors when they didn't feel like that they were getting proper care. And even in some communities, they may even be able to have access to care. I've been watching a bill going through Congress in DC, and there's been some things attached there to a law, so not really sure what's going on there. So perhaps as I've been talking, maybe you've thought about the characteristics that describe you and how that impacts people's perception of you and also your access to certain things in the community. So let's keep that in mind as we move forward and think about intersectionality. And intersectionality is pretty much what I gave you an example of there. Now, all of these links to videos are separate from the PowerPoint on Blackboard. I'm not going to watch this video right now where children and young adults are explaining intersectionality. It's a minute long, so I encourage you to watch that after we get finished with our video here. So you'll hear children explaining what is intersectionality. Well, legal scholar Kimberly Crenshaw is the person who, through her research and through her analysis of legal decisions, coined the term intersectionality. So there is a video that's linked on Blackboard. It's also linked here on the PowerPoint that has, it's more like an animated type, I think it's about 5 minutes long, maybe just 2 minutes, that describes and defines intersectionality and what that is and how it affects us as individuals. So once again, Kimberly Crenshaw, who is a legal scholar, was the first person to come up with this term, intersectionality. So when we're thinking about intersectionality and working with students with significant disabilities, we think about the intersection of a person's ability and the other aspects of their life. So here is a definition of ableism, and it's the discrimination of it's social prejudice, and it's based on a belief that people with disabilities are less than. It's based on the belief that neurotypically developing people, people who may people who have sensory impairments or physical impairments, they are just less than, and able-bodied people and people who do not have any hidden disabilities, they're superior. And so we really have to think about ableism when we are working with students with significant disabilities, and how ableism in the community may impact how they're perceived and the level of support that they receive as well. Now, on Blackboard, again, there is a link to Access Living, which I encourage you to check out their website. This is where this definition comes from, and they provide a lot of support to allow people with disabilities to live independently. So, moving forward, we're looking at intersectionality and ability, okay? So, if you want to look at the different areas of our culture that are very oppressive, we know that if a person doesn't have all the resources that they need for the thing, secure, stable housing, that they have plenty of food to eat, they have access to health care. When a person is coming from a community where they don't have enough resources, that's how that they are oppressed in our community. People maybe in some communities, if they have a different sexual orientation than a cisgender person, they may feel oppression in that community or that culture. If a person has a different gender identity than what they were assigned at birth, there may be some oppression there. The same thing with sex, male and female. We know that in our country that women still typically make less money than men working in the same job. We've made some progress there, but still there's not that same level of respect for the work that women do and then the work that men do. There are racial inequities in our country. So once again, bodies of literature there. And then also there is religious oppression in the United States. So you can think of, like, in Arkansas, it seems to be pretty homogeneous when it comes to religion, because around 70% or so of the people in Arkansas are Southern Baptist, and they practice Christianity in the Calvinist tradition as Southern Baptist. So people that have other religions in Arkansas, let's say they practice Islam, they may be Hindu, they practice Buddhism, those other religions, even, sometimes, even though, Catholicism is the birth of Christianity, even Catholics sometime in Arkansas can feel oppressed if everyone surrounding them are Protestants. So you can see that this wheel of oppression here that shows different areas of how people are oppressed. When you start adding ability to that equation, it just, if you have limited economic resources and you have a disability, the oppression that you experience from access to career options and living opportunities, living independently, is greatly reduced. And that would be the same thing for the other sections of this circle diagram for a person with that has a disability. So if you've already watched the video that was above this area of your Blackboard site for the task analysis, if you watch the video there of me in my kitchen showing you how the breakdown of the hand washing procedure, I didn't even consider a person's religion when I was demonstrating hand washing. My example was based on the Western dominant culture, and I didn't give it any consideration on that I needed to think about that there was other ways to wash their hands other than the way that we've been taught here in the United States, specifically since the COVID pandemic, that there are different ways of washing our hands. We sing happy birthday, we do it 20 seconds, and all of that, okay? So one thing that really that I was exposed to, and I had no idea what it was and I don't know how to say this term for ritual hand washing, that are performed by Muslims as they prepare for prayer and worship. Now, I'm going to go to a website here for just a moment. And let's see. Yeah, here we go. No, this one. All right, so you can see this person here. They're practicing the ritual hand washing before they go into the main area of the mosque for prayer and worship. And so you can see here that that there are prayers that go with each part of the hand washing. Now, down here you can see they wash their mouth. They the water is breathed gently into the nose, then how they, it's just very specific on how they wash themselves when they come into the mosque, even though they may have had a shower or a bath at home. Um, so this is how they wash themselves. Now, when I was a faculty member at Fontbonne University in St. Louis. It was a small Catholic institution, but we had many students from Saudi Arabia who came over and were graduate students at our institution. And I was really close to one of my students. And after she graduated and she was getting married, she invited me to her wedding. So I went into the restroom at the wedding and I saw exactly this type of setup in the bathroom, but I had no idea what it was. I was like, what is this with these little stools and these faucets? Well, then I learned that it's where they wash for to prepare themselves for worship. Now, if we had a student, let's say that they had limited verbal ability, but I'm going to use a male example here. Their father had been taking them to the mosque to pray, that the father had taught the son how to wash his hands, wash his feet. And then all of us, then so he's mastered this when he's with his father before he goes into prayer. But then at school, we think, oh, this student doesn't know how to wash their hands at school, so we're going to start and teach them. But all that they've ever really been taught about hand washing is the ritual hand washing, and they start to refuse to learn and really are upset. Well, if you hadn't partnered with the family to talk to them about skills that they need to learn as part of their growth and adaptive behavior, and you start trying to teach them something differently that they may have already mastered for another means, we may run into some resistance there. So that's why it's so important before we invest a lot of time in teaching students what we think they need to know. We need to make sure that we're collaborating with those families to make sure that we're meeting the family's needs and the students' needs. Now, something else that I've learned through this process, let me go back here to the PowerPoint real quickly. Right? I want this one actually. All right, so we've looked there, but then this next slide, okay, I had no idea that there were so many ways of washing your hands around the world and in different cultures. Okay, now I'm going to, oh, no. I'm just going to click through this real quickly because I don't want to have to shoot my video again. All right, so here we go. So the World Health Organization, now you are linked to the entire article on Blackboard, but I'm just going to sum it up for us here now, all right? But it was very, very eye-opening to me and very, very important. So when we're talking about world health and health and safely around the world, clean care is safe care, okay? And so the World Health Organization did some research, and they found that hand gestures in different religions and cultures impact their understanding and their belief about about dirty hands, okay? And the concept of visible dirty hands versus, I would say, our particular mindset here in the United States is like going, oh, let me wash my hands all the time. Yes, give me that hand sanitizer. Let me put a little bit more on. But in other cultures, if their hands weren't visibly dirty, they wouldn't wash them, and it may be days after they've been doing other things that they might finally decide they need to wash their hands. Now, something else that I had never considered was using what I just mentioned earlier, hand sanitizer. It's like some religions, you cannot have alcohol. Okay, you're not supposed to consume alcohol as a beverage. In addition to that, they do not use alcohol based products as hand sanitizer. All right, so all of these things are something to be considered. If you're working with students and you have a diverse student population in your classroom, we may think about this often when we are in general education and students may not speak English. They're new in our country. Um, they they young women in middle school and high school are going to wear a hijab. It's like, so we see this evidence maybe in the things that they read, the things that they want to study, how they present themselves in public, the clothing that they wear. um, but we don't take that as much into consideration as when we're working with students with significant disabilities who may have less speech, and we just assume the things that they need to be taught. Now, um, here is something that's really important when it comes to working with families and that homeschool partnership when we're thinking about developing task analyses to teach them specific skills. If the student is verbal, we want to ask the student. If they're not, we may need to also collaborate with families, even if the student is able to verbally talk with us or use an augmentative communication device. We need to have details of their environment, details regarding the tools, and the tools are things that we use to accomplish the task, okay? Um, and there's also details on other aspects that impact the implementation of task analysis in varied settings. So when I first was, I had a student who he had about 3 words in his vocabulary, and his mom, I had talked to his mom about, what skills she would like to see us work on with him at school. And she said, I would really like for him to be able to participate in the chores in our house. Every family member has to do a chore, and he's not really participating in that. So I would like for him to be able to do a chore. And I said, well, what about towel folding? And she goes, oh, I think that sounds great. And I said, okay, so how do you fold a towel at your house? Do you do it the long way, fold it in half, fold it in half? Or do you do it the short way where you fold it over, then fold it over again, and then fold it in threes? So I made sure that we were using a task analysis at school and the assessment process and the instructional process that was unified or consistent with how the family folded towels at home. So there are lots of things to consider here, and just to be clear, when we're talking about doing the task analysis assignment, oh, let me go back here. The task analysis assignment that you are going to be doing, you're kind of, I would say, a little bit at a disadvantage because you're not working with a student right now. You are, and so you don't have that opportunity to partner with the family, partner with the student as you're developing the task analysis that you would use for assessment and then use to inform your instruction in the future. All you're doing for this task analysis is thinking about, okay, if I had a middle school student, what would I expect a typical middle school student to be able to do? Maybe make microwave uh, mac and cheese. Maybe be able to get a bowl of cereal for themselves. Maybe you would want them to be able to fold some clothes, use a vending machine, whatever you think that your 10, 12, 14-year-old should be able to do, that would be an option for your task analysis assignment. Now, when you first do that task analysis, it's not the time to teach. It is the time for you just to break it down into all the discrete behaviors, like you saw me do in the hand washing video that's posted on Blackboard. Okay, you're not doing it thinking about what accommodations you're going to do. You are breaking down the task in discrete behaviors based on what an able-bodied, neurotypically developing person would do to make that peanut butter sandwich, do the laundry at your house. Okay, now if you want to do it as something at school, that's fine. But it's like, how do you fold clothes at your house? How do you do laundry at your house? How does a person take a shower at your house or brush their teeth? Okay, what you are doing the task analysis based on the environment where you do it and the tools that you use. And then if we were implementing this for instruction, the first thing that we would do would be to assess the task analysis on what discrete behaviors the student can and cannot do. And then we would decide how we were going to plan our instruction. And then we would assess how the student was doing each of those discrete behaviors, what level of prompts. There's so much more to this process, but because you're not working with a student right now, I just have you begin learning the process by having you complete a task analysis in your home or school environment. So I hope that this was helpful. Please watch the videos and look at the web pages where the sources of information that I spoke to you about in this video, in this screenshot video. If you have any questions, always email me and I'll get right back to you as quickly as I can. So I look forward to seeing the work that you do on this assignment, and don't be surprised if there are many, many, many more steps than what you imagined, okay? I've seen somebody do a bowl of oatmeal and it was over 100 discrete behaviors. So just look at every little thing that a person has to do to complete the task and you'll do great. All right, take care now, everybody. Bye-bye.